Hi, science students. Today we're going to focus on breaking down AKS 1B. It says develop a model of plant and animal cell structures. So what I want to do first when I'm breaking down the AKS is I want to mark all of the key vocabulary words or phrases in the learning target. So I'm going to use a yellow highlighter. You can use any color that you like. If you don't have a highlighter, put a box or a circle around the key vocabulary. I'm going to circle AKS 1B first. I then am going to mark that key vocabulary. So I'm going to start with the science and engineering practice of develop a model. I'm going to mark that whole phrase as one piece. And then I'm going to mark plant and animal cell structures. So there's a lot to unpack in this learning target. So let's start by talking about that science and engineering practice of developing a model. I'm going to scoot my paper down just a little so that I can write in the space above. I'm going to use different colored pens throughout the video, and you're welcome to do the same, or you can use all the same color, as long as you're writing everything that I'm writing. So if we're talking about developing a model, let's think about what that practice will really look like. To create a model or to develop a model is going to be creating a visual representation to demonstrate your understanding. So I'm going to write create a visual representation to demonstrate or to show your understanding. We know because we practiced this that this model could look like all sorts of things. It could look like a drawing. It could look like a three-dimensional creation. It could look like a piece of art like you created. There's no limit to what a model can look like as long as it is a visual representation that demonstrates your understanding. Let's move on to plant and animal cell structures. We know those structures by the name organelles. So what I want to do first is in parentheses, I want to write the word organelles next to cell structures, because that's the term that we use, and that's the term that scientists would use if they were talking about the components of the cell. We know that some are going to be defined organelles and some are going to be structures within the cell, but both are going to be things that we have talked about extensively before. So I want us to start with the plant cells, and I'm going to use green to identify the parts that are only in plant cells. So first, I'm going to put a box around the word plant in green. And then I'm going to draw some arrows to show the specific organelles that are only in plant cells. So let me draw them like this. One little green arrow, and I'm going to write one that you should recognize, the cell wall. And then I'm going to draw a second little green arrow and write another one that you should recognize, the chloroplast. I'm going to put a little bracket here and write only in plants or plant cells. We talked about a lot of organelles though, and many of them are in both. So I want to use a different color to show the organelles that are in all cells, whether they're plant or animal. So I'm going to use red here, and I'm going to put it around the words cell structures and organelles. So I'm going to draw several arrows. My first little red arrow is going to be for the nucleus. My second little red arrow is going to be for the cytoplasm. My third little mitochondria arrow is going to go right here, mitochondria. We know that there's also the cell membrane. And I got a little cramped there, but that says the cell membrane. And then let me draw one more here, the lysosome. So you're probably thinking to yourself, there are other organelles that we talked about that are not written here. You're right. We talked about many other organelles, but those are not the ones required for you to know as a 7th grader. So if you're not seeing vacuole or centrioles or other parts of the cell that we talked about, that just means you learned more than you needed to as a 7th grade student. So down at the bottom of my page, I have a little white space. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a third color down here. I'm going to use purple. And I'm going to write, what do organelles work together to do? I'm going to add do right here. What do organelles work together to do? There are several processes that we talked about that organelles are going to undergo in order to keep the cell alive and to maintain homeostasis. So with my purple pen, I'm going to write several of those processes. I'm going to write that they have to be able to grow and reproduce, and that organelles are going to contribute to that process of mitosis or meiosis in order for the cell to grow and make new cells. They also have to be able to make or obtain nutrients. They also have to be able to make and use ATP or cell energy. They have to be able to remove waste as well. Let's put a little cloud around this question so that it kind of distinguishes it from the rest. So we said, what do organelles work together to do? They have to work together to do these processes. But why? Why do they have to do it? So right at the bottom, I'm going to put why, and I'm going to put a little cloud with a big arrow from my first question. Why do they have to do these things? And you're probably thinking the answer to this question right now. They have to do these things so that they can maintain homeostasis. Everything in the cell will stay balanced and healthy and sustainable as long as they are undergoing all of the processes to supply nutrients, to make energy, to remove waste, so that they can continue to maintain homeostasis. So I'm going to zoom out a little so that you can see everything on my page. Maybe I won't be able to, it might be too tall. But I'll go like this. If you need to pause the video to make sure you have anything down, certainly do so. If not, have a really great day. Bye-bye.